This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kaura and George Mavros from Sydney.
Well, welcome again to this exciting series of episodes that we have been covering with CXOs, founders, and co-founders. Let me just tell you, I've interviewed a couple of CEOs, CMOs, co-founders, founders of startups, scale-ups, and some big organizations as well. But I've never interviewed somebody with this title called Chief Human Success Officer, joining us from Denmark, if I'm not wrong. Is that right?
Absolutely, from Denmark, from Copenhagen.
Yeah, and she's also breaking her podcast virginity at Ultimate Global Podcast. So that can be a reward for us, a recognition for us that somebody is breaking that for the first time. So welcome to today's episode, Nina. It's an honor to be interviewing you today, and I look forward to getting some insights from you on what that title is, and also an understanding a bit about your history of how you became a Chief Human Success Officer, and the journey that has taken you from being the founder of an organization called ValueBeat 4 years ago, working for it for quite some time, and then what really made you join Zensai. So possibly, as I've introduced you already, do you want to start off with that interesting title that you have and possibly introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, I can, absolutely. I am Nina Carøe, and I'm the Chief Human Success Officer here at Zensai. I joined Zensai 6 or 7 months ago, and it was a part of them acquiring the IP rights for ValueBeat that I've had founded before with a group of people. And before that, I've been working in HR, people and culture, and people teams for 10, 15 years. And before that, I studied it for 5 years. So I've been talking about everything related to people in organizations for many years. And then I have this experience of trying to found my own company too before joining Zensai. And I think speaking to the title, with Zensai, we really want to change how we think about HR and people and culture. We think the people agenda needs a seat at the table for businesses to be successful. And we actually looked a little bit to customer support. That's also now customer success when we were thinking about the title. For us, it relates to thinking more about it as human development, human success related to business success than it is related to people support or the admin stuff and these things that we normally have been relating the people effort to in the company.
That's amazing, Nina. And I think that's the story we want to hear of the message of human success that Zensai is trying to translate as well. What was the biggest challenge for you in that process when you were going through that acquisition process and then joining Zensai in the initial few months?
What was the biggest challenges? Well, I've been working as a consultant too, so I've been actually onboarding to a lot of companies over the last couple of years, and it's always challenging to join a company because you need to figure out what's going on, who does what, how does things work. So mentally, it's a bit of a workload, right? So I think that's what it is for everyone who gets a new job. And I was also in a situation where I had to quite quickly get my head around the human success theme and how the company was already speaking about that, and kind of add some of the experience that I have from having worked as a people professional for many years, and kind of add that to the thoughts that was already being done in the company. So I think that was some of the things that was a bit that I was very focused on for the first month at least.
Can I butt in there, Saurabh? For those who didn't know me, it's Paul Scott here. I'm the general manager for ANZ for Zensai. So I work alongside Saurabh and Nina. But Nina, we've only had probably a 10-minute conversation once in Aarhus. So I'm still really intrigued to know more about what really attracted you to the company and to this human success proposition. So when you joined Zensai, there was already the idea, if you like, of human success. It was being talked about as being very much a kind of maturity thing that was going on within the HR sector. We talked about first generation being HR, second generation being people and culture, third generation being human success. When you joined us, what did you see might have been missing from that proposition? What were the things that you felt you could add to it that weren't there in that sort of early evolution of the idea?
Well, I think so for Rasmus and Robin, who came up with the idea together with the team, I think it came from their perspective. It came from an experience of having worked for a lot of companies throughout their careers, and having experienced that the places that they've enjoyed working the most was also places where there was a huge focus on people's success. So that's where that came from, and they realized that our platform shouldn't only be talking about learning, because there's much more to human success than learning, right? They wanted to add the engagement part. They wanted to add the continuous performance conversations and development conversations to kind of bring that full scope of enabling human success into the platform. But for me, what was attractive and also how kind of what Rasmus' proposition was to me was that, I mean, I've had hands-on experience from working in people teams for so many years. So I kind of bring that understanding of, okay, but what does the everyday looks like out there? What is it that the members of the people team are succeeding with? What are they not succeeding with? How does it feel working in HR people and culture day in and day out? And I think that's where we saw the match between where they come from, which is a lived experience of being an employee and a manager, but still an employee in companies, and then wanting to bring that to more people worldwide. And then for me, okay, so how do we actually then help and enable HR people, culture team, human success teams out there actually achieving that? Because saying it isn't enough. We need to set it into a system and processes. It needs to be in everything we do and think for it actually working and having a true impact, right, to the employees out there. So I think that's, if that was a answer to your question. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Yes, and look, and I think one of the observations I make obviously is, certainly over the last 10 years, there have been the most extraordinary changes in the workplace.
Absolutely.
In terms of the way we work and the composition of the workforce, and the skills and the impact of technology. So I'm interested to know more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so obviously when I started and I started talking to Rasmus and Robin about human success, it made me think about what has changed for the employees since I started working in the people in a people team when I started my career, and since I started working in HR back then, I think one of the things that's changed is that today employees are under a new and very different kind of mental pressure, you can almost say than we were back then, because we're online all the time, scrolling away, comparing ourselves to others. We're bombarded with info. We're available all the time, which is great, but also super hardcore sometimes. And how do we log off? How do we get that quality time back, kind of? And we're struggling to figure out how to deal with all of that. So why is that relevant in a human success content? I think it's relevant because nobody wants more of that online induced pressure and overload, and it is affecting our ability to work and be in the world. But we're looking for this experience that allows us to be present in the moment together with other human beings. So it's all about connection and grounding in a way, and obviously when you're working with how to empower people in organizations, you need to have that in mind much more than what we had to have 10-15 years ago, because back then we were still all in the office. We still had things on paper. We still, sorted things out and could check things off. Now everything is just ongoing and expanding, right? So it's very different how we are in this world, but also how we are in the world of work. So that's the first thing that I kind of started thinking about, and then I would say the other part of it is that today when we try to hire people, I talk to candidates, other people, HR, people and culture leaders who are looking to hire people. We talk about how the ask from the employees has changed. So when we hired back then, it was much more about what could the employee offer the company. Now it's changed. It's the other way around. It's what can the company offer me, right? So today most companies says we're people first, but employees are asking, what does that really mean? Because we don't really see you acting in a different way than what you've done the whole time. No. We don't see that you're really changing your mindset around. It's about what you can offer us and not what we can offer you. So we have this thing of, employees expect or strive to be net better off working for companies. And I can talk a little bit more about that, what is net better off. But overall, it's about the employees feeling that they're better off working for you, that they get slightly more out of going to work than what they're putting in. And it's not only time or task wise, or it's like it's energy wise, right? So it's various different things that counts into that. Also, for sure, now ask, from where can I work if I choose to join your company? After COVID, we most employees will prefer a company that's at least hybrid or allows for flexibility. We're not going back into that controlling relationship of a manager where you have to sit at your desk and I need to be able to look at your work for me to feel that you're actually being effective. I think we tried the other thing now, and everyone is like, well, it's working, so why can I have that flexibility? Why can I not have a life that's actually working from a time perspective, where I can work from home and fit things in and all of that? So I know that some companies are saying now we're all going back to the office. I just think that employees will just, as soon as they get an offer where there's more flexibility, they'll choose that over the other. So it's definitely a part of the future of work, if you ask me.
Funny enough that you say that. I'm thinking funny enough that you say that. There was a report earlier this week by KPMG where they interviewed the directors of KPMG, and 82% of them said that within the next 3 years, most of the white-collar workers will be back to office on the basis of certain things that they studied.
There's a lot of people
also shared that on LinkedIn.
There's a lot of companies having an opinion on it, right? But I think there's the other part of it, which is we're working in a much more globalized setup. So you can't bring everyone in your company into the same office anymore. Also, like we're forced to figure out how to work remotely with each other. So it's several different things. I mean, obviously, change is difficult, and it'll take time, and we'll go back and forth a bit. But there's no way around it. That's the overall direction for me, for sure.
100%.
And then I would just say the last thing that I think definitely has changed since I started working, and back to the employees saying, what is the company is giving me. And I think in a world where we have climate crisis and wars and a world economy that isn't exactly terrible, but also isn't exactly good, and we don't know what to expect from it, to be honest, people would much rather, and I would much rather work for a company that will positively affect the future of my kids than I want to work for a profit-only company. And that's definitely a new thing, that people wouldn't bring these thoughts. I think they would have those thoughts of feeling 10, 15 years ago, but we wouldn't connect them with our work life to the same extent. Yeah, we wouldn't express it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, there was a very interesting response to that article, Saurabh, from one of the CEOs at Atlassian, who actually said, "Oh, good. I'm going to encourage them to enforce coming back to work because I know at least a third of their workforce are going to be looking around for other jobs."
Yeah, so that can be a strategy too if you're looking to cut some of your workforce.
That's also a headcount crisis. The tech sector in our region, as you probably know, Nina, is very tight. There's less than 4% unemployment.
Yeah.
Finding good technical staff is incredibly difficult.
Yes. Yeah.
I know of one company that's got over 100 open positions in their technology department. They just can't fill them. And it's anything like an enforcement of people going back to work is just going to convince a swathe of those people that it's an opportunity to change jobs to a company that's more flexible.
And it's definitely the same situation here in Europe, and it's only been more and more difficult to find that talent since, I would say, even before COVID, right? But then it was really, really difficult under COVID, and then I guess a little bit easier again. But and I think that's back to how do we, in terms of investing in our people effort, to make sure that we're competitive as a company, because I think one of the things that we don't realize is that actually hiring people, the talent acquisition effort in a company is a key thing. And there's some people who are really good at hiring people, finding people, and getting them interested and getting them to accept the offer. And I think we sometimes still think that everyone can do a bit of recruitment, but that's just not the case. It's actually something that takes skill and experience and shouldn't be underestimated. And if we don't have people who are really good at that, we actually cannot find the people we need. It'll take us 6 months, 12 months to find candidates for even quite junior technical roles. I just had a conversation with one of our leaders in UK where we're actually struggling with finding a technical profile. So it's an important one to focus on.
Yeah, and just leading on from that, one observation I made from a talk that you gave recently actually was, I think you said this is the first time in history there have been either 4 or 5 generations of people in the workplace. And that itself, presents some major challenges. How do you think human success as a model is going to help with generational diversity in getting people into the workplace? I'm thinking more outside, our company, but more generically into businesses.
And I think I'm actually not an expert in terms of the differences in the different generations. Of course, I have my own experience with it, but I tend to lean more toward thinking it like this. I think we're all realizing that we're different, and we have different wishes and requirements around going to work, and there might be some generational stuff that is the same for groups of people. But I think my experience is that speaking to employees from the different generations, their demands and their wishes for their work life is not so different. The difference is that the younger generations, they say it and they call out I don't know if I can say that, but the bullshit from leadership teams if they don't put their money where their mouth is. And they do it publicly on social media. But I don't think that the older generations actually disagree so much. I think they agree, and they also see the benefits of having a more balanced work life. So to that extent, I'm more about. I think we have the same wishes. I just think we are different in how we express it. I think some of the older generations are used to just doing what they're being told without saying no, and kind of saying that they think things are not a good idea. But they have the same wishes around having that flexible work life, where they have a job that they like to do, and they're motivated by, and they feel treated fairly and included, right? I mean, I think women who are 40 and 50 would like to feel that they belong and are included just as much as young females who are perhaps speaking more about it, right? But the dreams and wishes for that is the same.
True.
Yeah. Just continuing on the generational diversity part, Nina. So coming from a generation who is somewhere sitting in between Gen Z and millennial, I don't call myself a millennial, though I'm a millennial because I was born in 1995. But my thoughts and my attitudes are more aligned to Gen Z. So let's talk about Gen Z there. I feel like a lot of Gen Z that I talk to these days, they are saying no to micromanagement. They're saying yes to a company which can develop a personalized career pathway for them over the next few years. And they are looking for a workplace where they can find some sort of purpose in what they are delivering every day. So, it's beyond just ticking off the boxes and making sure that you're fulfilling those jobs, roles, and responsibilities and getting that paycheck, but it's actually making sure that what sort of purpose or value I'm adding on a daily basis to the organization, and how does that align with my future? Do you see that growing even more in the upcoming generations of Gen Z and the future ones?
Yeah, for sure. And that's back to it's an essential term, the net better off thing, where, they talk about four things that we need to think about, and that employees want, and that's the promise we need to give to the employees to attract and retrain and retain them long term, right? So it's making sure that they're healthy and well. It's making sure that they feel connected with a strong sense of purpose and belonging. It's making them feel that they have a purpose, and it's making sure that they get the marketable skills that they need for the careers that they want, right? So it's those four things, and I think that's something that the Gen Z is much more vocal about. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that the older generations don't want the same thing. I just think they've never thought that they could actually ask for it. The situation hasn't been that they could and would get it if they asked for it, right? So and I just think the good thing is the newer generations, they're actually speaking about it, they're saying it. And I think with the social media, where we share everything from our lives, it's harder for businesses to say that they're people first, but not living up to this, making sure that their employees are net better off, right? So I think that'll change things overall, because they can't get away with anything less, pretty much.
100%. So true. So true. So there was something else, I think, Saurabh, you were going to ask just then. I just lost my thread. What was it?
So one of the things that I wanted to cover, Nina, that you talked about before was posting on social media. I feel people who are younger, they love posting about things that they don't like on social media. In some cases, I feel it's a really good thing, because it kind of tells you about the company culture even before you join. But in some ways, it can be a disadvantage for that individual who has posted. I know a couple of individuals in America who got laid off, and they started posting videos on TikTok earlier this year. I'm not going to name that organization, but I know who posted and where did they post and what was the after reaction. Do you think that's a positive thing in the industry, or?
I think sometimes it's what it takes, right? Because I think to change things, I think it's genuinely enough for employees to say, well, you're saying you're people first, but you treat me like this, and kind of call it out, right? I think that's what it takes for companies to kind of start thinking about, well, we have to really be mindful of, being people first isn't just free. It's something that we really have to put some work behind and invest in. So obviously it's not it's not great when people are throwing each other under the bus in front of everyone, but sometimes I think that's what it takes to see change.
Cool.
And over to you, Paul. Do you have any questions related to the
Yes, I
future
do.
vision of
Yeah.
Human Success?
What are your ambitions for human success over the next 3 years, Nina? What would you like to see change more generally within commerce and industry in terms of the way that people think about people being net better off, experiencing something different in terms of how organizations communicate and interact with them, and the sort of career development opportunities they're given?
Well, the thing is that we spoke a little bit about now already what's changed for the employees since I started working in HR back then, and what's interesting is that a lot of stuff has changed for the companies too, right? Because since then we're seeing change to a whole new level, and complexity is much more than what it was back then, because of our technical capabilities, because of how much we're globalized now compared to then, and that how that affects how we work. And I think, and the thing is for companies, because of that rapid change, continuous change and complexity, it is so key for them now to be agile and innovative to a new level, and need to be able to change super fast. And if you think about it, what's then able to be agile and innovative? It's not machines, it's not buildings, it's not legal entities. It's people. It's people that can be agile and innovative under the right circumstances. And so in that way, I would say the table has already turned in favor of the employees. So it's not only the employees asking for it, because I think I personally have been saying to leaders all the time, I've been saying, look, if you don't figure out how to lead and motivate your people in the right way, then it will hurt your business. And they've been saying, yeah, you're also in HR or people and culture, you're kind of so soft, and it's all the soft stuff. But now they're actually, because of the requirement for agility and innovation to stay competitive already tomorrow, I think most leadership teams are realizing that, okay, we actually really have to make sure that we have the right skills at the right time. And so I think in terms of what's my ambition, it's not so much my ambition. I think the change is happening because of that, because they now have a reason, a more business or critical reason that they thought they had before, because they couldn't see the connection the same way. And so I think we'll see, and I know we're already seeing a lot of leadership teams looking to their HR teams or people and culture teams, what we want to call human success teams, in a new way. And they're asking them, how are we going to solve this? How are we going to make sure that we have a competitive business tomorrow? And they look at their team, the people team, and the people team look at them and they say, okay, yes, let me just think about it and come back to you with an answer. Because the truth is that if we look at the people teams, a lot of the people who's been working in the people teams up until now have different backgrounds. We've been hiring people into those teams that didn't necessarily have the most strategic background. They were people who came from perhaps finance, admin roles, roles, that were really good with people and could see some of these really important dynamics that we needed to figure out to not have culture eating strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
But now they're kind of a little bit in a difficult situation because they don't necessarily have the experience available to actually give an answer to the leadership team and talk to them in a data-driven way and in a way where they kind of connect the people effort to the strategic ambition. And so I think we'll see back to my ambition, I think if we can from Zensai enable those people, team members to help the leadership teams become more strategic in their people effort to actually enable the company to succeed, then I would be super happy. That would be so great for me. And I think from a personal perspective, being a female in a leadership role, I think we do see still a lot of women in the HR and people and culture team. So I think if we can help them get into a more senior roles where they're talking at a strategic level, I'm hoping that I kind of help them succeed and in their career and be promoted and get the job that they wish for. So, but that's more from a personal perspective.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Nina. We have got two more questions, one from Paul, one from my side. So the question that I have for you is more aligned towards the role of AI and the other technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality and all those fancy terms that we are hearing these days. I see that the people understand these technologies to some extent, but then I also see some part of the community in the technology sector who are afraid of AI. A lot of people I talk to, maybe they don't understand what AI is, and they are looking at it with a sense of fear that it might come and replace my job. And those who understand it well, they might say, oh, I don't think it's going to replace my job. I just need to upskill myself so AI can do what it needs to do. And I need to do what I need to do to increase my productivity. So I see that there are two different lenses in the industry. And one of the things that people need to understand is the role of upskilling and reskilling themselves in the next couple of years. And that's directly aligned to the concept of human success that we are talking about. So my question to you is, what's the role of artificial intelligence and any other new technologies in the next 5 years in making more successful humans?
Well, from my perspective, but I'm also a positive person, optimistic person. And I know there are these two different ways of looking at it. I think it's just a great opportunity for us to upskill, work smarter. And I think from in terms of what's people department going to do about it, I think we need to make sure that we upskill our employees so they can use it for the better. And then I would just go back to what I said before. In a complex, rapidly changing world, and where the need for agility and innovation is the only way to succeed as a company, people are still gonna be the thing that we'll look to for success, not AI, because it's the people who can be innovative and agile to the extent we're gonna need. So I'm not afraid of AI taking over all of our jobs. I just think we're gonna work in a different, smarter, and better way.
Yeah,
and I would say from personal perspective, I appreciate, I guess, all the younger employees who just, they know their thing and they show me all of these smart ways to do things, and I'm like, I feel a bit lost already, but they're super great at helping me with improving my skills. So it's a matter of helping each other, taking advantage of the new technology.
Yeah, I think it also puts the spotlight on the need for continual learning.
Yeah,
and for organizations to provide the possibility for people to continually learn and develop their skills.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stats around how AI is going to replace 30% of your skills in the next 2 years. So what are you going to do?
Well, and I'm so happy about that, because
Yes.
those skills are probably things I'm not going to want to use my time on anyways.
Precisely. It's got to be an opportunity. It's got to be an opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
Last question. Oh, it's going to be possibly 2 or 3. Any books or media that you've read recently that you would recommend Nina, that kind of provides either context or a backdrop to the idea of human success?
Yeah, I read, I don't remember the name of the authors though, but it's called 9 Lies About Work. I read it on my last when I was on maternity leave, and it's one of the best books I read since I stopped studying at university. It kind of speaks to some of those things that we say to each other about work that isn't really true, but we've been saying it so much, so we continue to say it. And I really like how it speaks to several parts of working, performance management, strategy. How can we? Is it even possible to have a strategy these days with the change that we see and other things? I really recommend that book to everyone. So yeah,
fantastic. Well, I'm not sure. Can we put it in the podcast notes, Saurabh? If we find a link for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can put it out in the podcast links.
Awesome, thank you. And one more.
Yes.
Who has been the biggest influence on your thinking around human success and where your ambitions are for it?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of my background. So I've always found myself in situations where I could figure out the things that happens between people. I could see that clearly, and I think I've now that I'm looking back, I could see that since I was quite young, and it helped me in many ways throughout life. And I think I've been in situations where some people have struggled with making the human part work in the dynamic, in the group dynamics. And so I think it's just something that I've always kind of had with me in a way that I saw in a different way than others, and then could help groups with. So I think that's one of the things that's defined me in terms of how I've then came into the role of HR, which is enabling leaders, teams, employees. And then I was lucky enough I couldn't get a job when I finished my university degree in human resource management because of the financial crisis. So I started in retail as a shop manager. So what happened was that I got management experience for quite a lot of people very early in my career, before I even started working with advising and partnering with leaders. And I think that defined me a lot too, because I understood in that setting, financial crisis, not so good for retail. We had to figure out how do we earn money with no resource for people development, customer success, branding, all of that. And I just realized it's all about, taking the time to make your employees and your customer feel seen and heard. And that is not an expensive thing to do. You're interacting with them anyway. Just be mindful and just listen and be there. And that's something I took with me. So I think I just carried that along with me throughout my early days in HR. And I just always was ambitious about getting the people agenda on the agenda for the leadership teams, getting it a seat at the table, because I really think it can make it or break it for a company. And I saw so many situations that was really hurtful for a business that was people related.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I think that's a great way to wrap it up, actually, Nina. You've been a wonderful guest. As you can imagine, both Saurabh and I are very, very enthusiastic about having you on board, and for the whole human success proposition. It's having a massive impact with so many of our customers here in Australia already, and we look forward to hosting you here in the not too distant future.
Thank you. I will be looking forward to it. Thank you so much, guys.
This is an Ultimate Global Podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Carøe and George Mavros from Sydney.